Kirralie Smith is part of the movement called the Australian Liberty Alliance. They're running Senate candidates in a few states, and she's described herself quite correctly as an accidental activist on matters when it comes to radical Islam. And Kirralie is the New South Wales candidate for the party, and she joins us here at Sky News. Kirralie, how are you?
I'm well, thanks, Paul.
Thanks for coming on. Very glad to have you here.
Good to be here.
Now, before we get into the stuff that will annoy Twitter, let's get to what does the party stand for? What is the Liberty Alliance about?
Well, we're a pro-Australian party. We really love Australia, and we love the values that Australia has been built on, that's made it such a great nation, that's made it a nation that's so attractive to so many other people around the world. And our two primary platforms would be we want to see a smaller, smarter government. There's just so much waste and excess in our government today. And the other thing is the Islamisation issue. So
you come to this party through, again, explain this accidental activist part of it, because you've taken quite an interest in halal certification and how that process has worked. How do you become the accidental activist?
Well, I'm a housewife primarily. I have 3 children. I love being a wife and mother. It's something that I would like to continue actually doing. About 5 years ago, I first heard about halal certification. It sparked my interest. I began asking some questions. As a result of those questions, I really quickly discovered that there was a lot of corruption in this industry. It was very unregulated. Things were overpriced, and there were just a lot of questions to be answered. Now, we still don't have the answers to all of those questions.
Well, and even in this Senate committee that took place, because I don't necessarily have a problem with companies going to get the halal certification for export. I don't have a problem with that. I don't necessarily have a problem with companies wanting to get that seal of approval in order for Muslim people to eat here, there, wherever. I've got no problem with that. The bit that gets me, though, is that the process by which we certify, and even Sam Dastyari, who was desperately trying to say, let's not talk about this, he had to admit that there is no standardised process for who does the certifying and what are the standards that are equal to get halal certification. Now, to put this in another term, we have safety standards for baby seats. They are the same everywhere, and it doesn't matter who the individual is, the standard is what matters. It's extraordinary to me that even when that came out, nobody wants to talk about it.
No, well, nobody really wants to talk about it at all, but so many things have been recommended by the Senate committee, but we're yet to see if anything will be implemented. But the fact is, it is an industry out of control, and even many of the certifiers themselves have indicated that they think it's an industry out of control, that there's bribes being paid, there's a lot going on that we need to continue to confront.
So there's, it takes a certain leap to put one's hand up to run for Parliament, because you know what comes with that. What has drawn you to the moment now to say, you know what, bugger this, I want to spend the next 6 years of my life in the Senate, I want to be part of the national conversation, and you know that comes with, the target on your back from lefties and all the rest
Absolutely.
of it, but why now? Why do this?
Well, I've been asked a lot by other minor parties to do this, and I've always said no. But this year, I think with the escalation of violence around the world, with terrorism on our own soil, but more than anything, the political correctness in this country is crippling us. And I'm seeing our freedoms being eroded every single day, you know, in the last week with the ASIO boss putting the heavy word on some of our politicians. And I think that's completely unacceptable. In a democracy, in a country like this, we should be able to have this conversation without being labelled, criticised as Islamophobes, bigots, racists. They're not true labels, and they're just designed to shut down the debate that must be had.
So let's talk about the Australia that works best for you and for the party. Obviously, there are hundreds of thousands of Muslims in this country, and no doubt there'll be hundreds of thousands of more that will want to migrate to this country. There's no problem with that movement of people, but what do you see as the things we have to do to stop the Islamisation, as you put it, of the country?
Well, primarily it's got to be about integration, not separation. And we just see so much divisiveness, whether it's dividing men and women in Islam, dividing Muslims and non-Muslims, the food, the finance, the clothing. There's division everywhere. We get accused of being divisive, but I actually say that it's Islam that is divisive. So where Muslims come to this country and they integrate, they want to be inclusive, a part of the wonderful society that we have no problem with that. And the Australian Liberty Alliance itself is a multi-ethnic, multi-belief system party. We have Buddhists, we have Hindus, we have atheists, we have Christians, we have Jews, we have all different faiths represented, all different nationalities. We are very inclusive, we're very open, and I think that's a great example of the Australia that we have and that we want to continue to see.
What's your view of, say, the Bendigo Mosque or other mosques that might want to be created by the local Islamic population, but there are others in the community who don't like a mosque being built?
Well, I don't think you can compare mosques to churches or temples and other places of worship, because Islam isn't just about worship. It also has a totalitarian political military agenda, and that's what we need to address. So we have some practical steps that we would like to see, and one of those is that those mosques would have to subscribe to the Universal Declaration of Human Rights instead of the Cairo Declaration of Human Rights, which is basically Sharia law, which is the inferiority of women, which is separation again, it's division. And so we take issue with mosques. If it's a place of worship, it's one thing, but when these other activities are going on in those places, they need to be addressed.
What about a Jewish Orthodox temple, though, that separates women? Would you expect them to sign the same declaration?
The Declaration of Human Rights, yes, because I think that they would, I don't think they'd have any problems signing that declaration. They're one of the world leaders in human rights in the world.
But this is, because this is my issue. Whenever I see, say, the protests about mosques in Bendigo or on the Gold Coast or anything like that, is I'm an atheist, but I understand people need their place of worship. But the Christian community doesn't have to sign that declaration, or anyone else. Now, my belief is, as an atheist, I don't mind if you want to put one rule on the Islamic community that applies to all other faiths. But
that's exactly what we're talking about.
So you want the Catholic Church to sign it?
Yeah, and I don't think they'd have any problem signing the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. There is no issue with any other belief system when it comes to these issues, but there is an issue for Islam.
Is there anywhere in the world where that system does exist?
Which system?
The system where, if somebody wanted to create a mosque, they would sign up to this. Is this an Australian idea that we're saying?
As far as I understand it,
right.
is, yeah.
What reaction do you get when inevitably you're on stages debating people with this? What happens when you make that suggestion or they push back against it? What's the main opposition that comes from either the Islamic groups or those trying to speak on their behalf?
Well, there's been very little substance in this debate, Paul. That's the issue. The issue is you're a racist, bigoted Islamophobe. There's name-calling. There's very little substance. So when we try to have this discussion, it doesn't go very far, and we want to have this discussion.
Yeah. What else needs to happen apart from just the mosque issue? What do we need to do to confront those things? Because, I mean, my issue is that I'm not going to hide from what I've talked about on this show, which is particularly annoyed to see people like apparently the Prime Minister calling in the ASIO boss saying, whoa, you Liberal MPs, you better settle down because you're getting too hot here. I don't see many people in the debate who are half as hot as those who get accused of hate speech and all the rest of it. But I also see scenarios where with Uzbek Turia, they are able to go and rent an Australian university hall, tell women to sit up the back. But I guarantee if the Australian Liberty Alliance tried to hire a hall,
absolutely,
you would get knocked back. And you wouldn't have any rule.
We find it incredibly difficult to hire venues in this country to have just reasonable discussions about these issues. So the double standards, the political correctness definitely needs to be addressed. And we need to start having the conversation about the fundamental issues that are the problem here. The Quran, the example of Muhammad, we might not have all the answers, but we certainly need to ask the questions and we need to get some answers on those.
Are you amazed that when you start to talk about this stuff, or you want to make yourself the candidate or a spokesperson for something, that they come from you from every direction? And by they, I mean people who want to, again, throw all of those silly names at you like Islamophobe and all the rest of it. How do you handle that? Because others in the past, when they've stood up to have this conversation, they either become, I think, too hard-hearted as a way of the defence mechanism, or they collapse completely. How do you handle that stuff?
Well, to be quite honest, I don't get it all that often. I actually have overwhelming support in the community and in social media. On social media, you know, 99% of it is encouraging. Thank you, be our voice. I mean, that's why I'm here. That's why I'm away from my family tonight, because people have said, can you speak out for us? And I'm like, yes, I can. I believe this with all my heart and I can do this. The criticism, like I said, it's without substance, so it doesn't stick. It doesn't worry me.
Good stuff.
You know, who cares?
You're ready for politics, Kirralie. All right, good luck to you. All the best.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Kirralie Smith, we'll talk to her again in the election year for the Australian Liberty Alliance. We will talk to many minor parties, and if you've got one, feel free to get in touch with us, which is pmlive@skynews.com.au. Quick break, back with more.
At Rivers, hurry in now for 40